Hello, I'm back again to read another article. This article has nothing to do with the previous articles I've been reading about. We're pretty much done with the Nature of God series. So this article has nothing to do with the previous articles whatsoever. I wrote this article a long time ago, in 2015. I was still in high school then, and it's still one of the articles that one of the articles, if not the only article that I still like from the things that I wrote when I was in high school. It's called What Lies Beneath the Mind. In 1889, a family in a small town in Austria welcomed a baby boy. When the boy was 16, he dropped out of school and went to Vienna, hoping to become an artist. The Academy of Fine Arts, however, rejected him for lack of talent. That hurt him very much, and he spent 5 years drifting from job to job. His fear of failure and the pressure he had to please his father led him to be a frustrated fellow. He later on embraced the First World War, and he was decorated twice for bravery. However, I want you to know one thing. This boy did not even want to be a soldier. He wanted to be an artist. But he became a soldier to hide his frustration. While he was in Vienna, where he was rejected as an artist, he developed some extreme nationalistic and racist ideas. One can say that rejection haunted him very much. In 1883, another poor family in Italy welcomed a baby boy. The boy was affected by the poor background he lived in. He taught school for a short time and then moved on to be a political journalist. He became an editor for an Italian socialist newspaper called Avanti. But as a frustrated young man, he broke with the socialists when they opposed Italy's entry into the First World War. Like the first boy, he found war as a way to end his frustration, and he again fought in the First World War. The first boy I mentioned is Adolf Hitler, and the second boy is Benito Mussolini. I do not share this story so that you feel sorry for this horrible man. Harsh background is not an excuse for cruelty. A lot of people have grown up in harsh conditions, but they have embraced kindness rather than cruelty. I, however, have told you these two stories because they show that there is only one type of disability in the world, and it is that of the mind. When I say this, I'm not referring to mental impairments or any intellectual disabilities of any kind. When I say the disability of the mind, I'm referring to how an individual can be too strong-minded or too weak-minded. I believe these are the two main problems one can have with his or her mind. A person can either be too weak-minded or too strong-minded. Either way, they are both big problems because one who is weak-minded is often too weak-minded to be stable, and the one who is too strong-minded is often too strong-minded to be sensible. I'm not going to focus on those who are weak-minded, but on those who are strong-minded, because it's usually mistaken as a strength. But as for me, I believe a person who is too strong-minded is actually worse than the one who is weak-minded. I may sound like I'm out of my mind, but I can sound like I'm out of my mind, for how can someone who is too strong-minded be in a far worse predicament than the one who is weak-minded? However, you should understand that people who are too strong-minded hide and cover up their emotions and weaknesses. This becomes a problem because they become disillusioned into thinking they are okay, while they're not. Sometimes you have to know your weaknesses, not because you have to cover them up or conquer them, but for you to be able to live with them. Let me show you how the mind can be the worst form of disability. That feeling of not blending in or looking down upon yourself, telling yourself you're not worth anything, it all starts in the mind. People who are too strong-minded, however, instead of fixing the problem, they try to cover it up so that they are not viewed as weak. This does not fix the problem, but it actually makes it worse. The insecurities, because it increases the insecurities one is going to have. This is why I started with those two stories. Look at how they both reacted to hardships. For more clarity, let's look at one more person. Let's look at Napoleon Bonaparte. He was a military genius, yes, but Napoleon suffered from low self-esteem problems as a young man. Do you know that Napoleon was not even French? He was a foreigner, whose French accent usually gave him away. It is said that as an artillery officer, Napoleon was solitary and self-consciously a foreigner. You may say, well, I don't see the problem with being too strong-minded. Because Napoleon later became powerful. However, you see, people who become too strong-minded to cover their insecurities always fall because they're not ready to learn from others, because they think they're being undermined. They don't know when to stop because the insecurities don't end when you become a king or rich, but they actually increase. So you'll be bound to do more and more. And as you can see from the three men I mentioned, it can also lead to the lack of empathy for others. Let me explain further so that you understand. Have you seen that most of these dictators reach a point where you say, if only he had not gone beyond this point, he could have succeeded? Napoleon could have held on to power for quite a long time if he wasn't pushed by his senseless ego to defeat Britain. He could not just accept the fact that Britain was too strong for him. I mean, he was defeated in the first battle, came back again, was defeated again, but he still wanted to defeat Britain. He already had an empire. Why was he pushing himself that hard to defeat them? Of course, there is that notion that he feared that as long as Britain was out there, his empire was never going to be safe. But I also think that part of it has something to do with that insecurity that he had knowing someone was better than him. Let's even set aside for a while the fact that he felt it necessary to continue. Let's even set Britain aside for a while. The fact that he felt it necessary to continue conquering and conquering meant that he could not stop. It seems like he had something more to prove every time. Well, if you are like that, then you won't be happy. Never. And you probably have to kill everyone in the world because definitely everyone is better than you at something. You see, they all reach a point where you say you should have stopped there. But they can't stop because their insecurity continues to increase with the more power they gain, and they end up being too strong-minded to be sensible. That is why Epicurus, a Greek philosopher, once said, "It's better to be free of fear, lying upon a pallet, than to have a golden couch and a rich table and be full of trouble." Sadly, that's what happens to people when they try to hide their weaknesses. People fail to understand that having a weakness is not a problem. No one is good at everything. The problem is when we try to hide our weaknesses. Out of someone's desire, you tend to see that they may be hiding something. And that's why Aristotle said, and I quote, "I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies, for the hardest victory is over self." And I tell you that we can be our worst enemies. So as for me, I believe disability is not physical or mental, but one who is disabled is that person who has a disabled mind. And again, I repeat, I'm not referring to mental or intellectual problems. So if you ever find yourself discriminating someone, it could be most likely you are hiding your own insecurities. To me, this pattern of hiding should be defined as a disability. It disables the person that is hiding, and in turn, it also promotes disability in other people. If we are seriously to combat disability, it is high time we look deep into ourselves and confront our own hurts and frustration. I'll end this article by posing this challenge of introspection to you. Thank you.